and we'll get to it at the end. But now, Patrick, I will hand it on over to you.
Thank you very much. So my name is Patrick Gorman, and I'm the CEO and founder of PersonaPanels. Just to give you a little bit of a background on me, I've been around technology in the insights industry for a long time. I started my first business in September of 1985, to put it in perspective, and I opened this business in November of 2017. And in November 2017, I thought I had about 18 months before there'd be a lot of competition in synthetic respondents. Some of the data people I knew that knew more about it than me said, no, it's probably going to happen in less than a year. And most of my friends said 5 years. Unfortunately, most of my friends were right. But the beauty of starting that long ago is we've been doing this a while. We've run literally thousands of tests with segments. We're really experts in what we do. This will probably sound a little surprising, but I like to ground people. We don't do all that much. We do two things, but we do them very well, and they're very important. So let me give you an overview of what I'm going to do today. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the business model, because that's how my brain works. What are we offering here? Is it worth your time? Then I'm going to explain what I mean by synthetic respondent. Then I'm going to show you the system. I'll move through that relatively quickly because it's probably best that you just get an overview of it. I'm not trying to train you today. And then at the end, I'm going to make this panel available for free for 30 days for anyone who's attending this session, or if you have a colleague and you'd like to share the link with them, more than happy. I'm going to limit it to the first 100 people to get started, but you'll see that at the end. So let's start with this screen. There's a lot to say about this screen. First of all, what is a living segmentation? A living segmentation in my world means I started with human-based segmentation data. In this case, it's around the generations. It's often around client segmentation data. And we model it. We use AI technology to model it. What are we doing? We're creating a synthetic version of a segment of the population. So each of our synthetic respondents represent a segment of the population. It's a living model. You're going to learn how it's updated, why we believe it's living. You'll learn about the data feed, and that's very, very important. The business model is a licensing model to do it yourself. Most clients get a license for a year because they're going to use it a lot. Some clients only get a 3-month license because they want to do a trial. One of the things that makes us very different than a lot of the competing dashboards and panels is if you license our panel, you can do unlimited tests with it while you have the license. We have clients that run hundreds of tests, meaning they go into brainstorming sessions and they test every idea. Or they have their ad agency or a creative team come up with ideas and nothing gets cut. Everything gets tested with our system. You can do two things with our system. They're both very important. You can monitor what your segments care about, and you can test text-based ideas in our KnowNow system. So what is a synthetic respondent? It's a machine learning model, as I already said. It's basically taking human data and modeling it so that it becomes, in essence, a bot that can consume information in this particular case. How do we create it? Well, we're using software. We license software, and then we need data that describes a segment. Often we work with clients. In this particular case, we have people who wanted a panel like this, so we built it. We have a lot of people using this panel, but it represents the generations in the United States. We have a series of quality control measures in place that we've had for years, and that's how we make sure that the modeling is accurate. This is very important. This is one of the key things you need to understand to even begin to work with us. We think of segmentation projects as a snapshot in time, because that's what they are. We turn them into a living segmentation, as I've already told you. What I mean by that is they evolve over time. You have to think about something like this. You've worked with software to model a segment of people that you care about. Now, those people are going to see articles from the internet that we've curated every day, about 20 to 25,000 pieces of informational content from the internet. Every piece of content is scored in our system with every single synthetic respondent segment. It gets a score from 0 to 100, and that score reflects how well it aligns with that group of people. Any piece of content that aligns at a high enough rate becomes part of the knowledge of that segment. So think about yourself. Think about something you read this morning. Maybe you're very interested in electric cars and you read an article about something new about electric cars because you care about it. It's now in your mind. Sitting next to you is somebody who couldn't care less about electric cars. They didn't even read the article. If they did, they skimmed it. They got a 5. It's not important to them. But because we're doing this on an ongoing basis with 20 to 25,000 pieces of text-based information from the internet, our synthetic respondent segments are constantly evolving. What that means to you is they're up to date. And that's one of the key benefits of working with PersonaPanels. We have an always-on system. People who license our system can go into it whenever they want. They know that it's been tailored to populations they care about. As one of my good clients said to me one day, you model people I care about so I can know what they care about. It really isn't more complex than that. But what's happening over time is the world is changing. Real life events impact segments you care about. It could be the presidential elections if you're in politics. It could be brands, things that happen in categories. It could be the weather if you're in business where you have outdoor events. But the reality of it is they're constantly evolving. And they need to evolve so that when you use KnowNow and you test a message, it has up-to-date information. It has to evolve so that you can look at new product and service ideas based on the real world now. And because of that, you can improve your customer's experience because you're basically reflecting the attitudes and knowledge of current segments. The panel that you can license for free is used by clients right now because they want to get a read of the US population. Many times they'll come back and ask me to customize some of the segments, but they always start with what you're seeing today. The KnowNow message system is probably the primary reason clients are attracted to us. It's called KnowNow because you can instantly test anything that's text-based. So what do clients do? They test concepts, web pages, product descriptions, customer reviews, emails, blogs. Be creative. Think of anything that's text-based. You're going to see how easy it is to do. But what you're doing is you're asking the system a simple question. How well does this content align with this segment that I'm working with? The higher the score, the better the alignment. It's that simple. But we can do something you can't do with human beings because we're using technology. And you're going to see this today. I'll show you an example. You can take an idea, maybe it's 3 paragraphs, put all 3 paragraphs into KnowNow, and then put A in alone, B in alone, and C in alone, and understand what's driving the score. You can't do that with a human being because if you give me 3 paragraphs, I can't evaluate A, B, and C independently. So that allows you to really refine messages, and all of our clients use that feature. It'd be crazy not to. But really what you can do, because you can constantly test messages, I'm going to say it again, it's a flat fee per month. Some people do hundreds of tests per month. They're not 100 different ideas. They're iterations on an idea. Because they're not working with human beings, they can test small changes instantly. What does that do? It allows you to refine the idea. And because you're working with specific segments, not the general population, you can change the message and refine the message for each individual synthetic respondent segment. So if you license our software, or if you pick me up on the free trial, a better way to think about it right now, this would be your opening screen. You're going to pick one of these segments that you want to work with to get started. We hold on to data for 90 days. Some clients have asked us for pricing to hold on to it longer, but right now the default is 90 days. And we have a way for you to set the time range so that you are looking at data that you care about. Imagine before and after the State of the Union. Imagine before and after a product recall. Use your imagination. You basically just use a slider and you decide what date range you want to use. Up here, you see a description and a picture and a name for the segment. This is important because when you go into meetings with your colleagues, you probably want to have this handy when somebody says, well, what did they model? We need to understand what's in that segment. So that's why we keep that up there, keep it handy. Inside this dashboard, and that's what you're looking at now, you're in one of the synthetic respondents, you're in the dashboard, you looked at date. Now you're looking at analytic tools in KnowNow. So you might jump right to KnowNow and start doing some message testing. You click on it, you're in the system, and I'm going to show you how to use that. You may decide to work with some of what we call monitoring data. That's the data that reflects the articles that your segments, these segments care about. We work with Relative Insight. I would strongly encourage you, if you take us up on the free trial, please contact them. Please ask them to show you their heartbeat product, which shows you text over time. It's very powerful. It works very, very, very well with the type of data we're producing. Think about it for a moment. 20 to 25,000 pieces of content are scored by every single one of our synthetic respondent segments every day and stored. There's a lot of data. And a lot of people, quite frankly, go out and use a large language model, ChatGPT 4 being the most popular. But as everybody on the call probably knows, if you have a text file, I'm going to show you how you can have that. You can go out and do wonderful things with either Relative Insight or a large language model. Sometimes people want to just look at certain publications. That's a very common thing to want to do. So you can go down and say, okay, I just want to look at articles and for this segment, for this period of time in this publication. So basically now, if you chose a publication, those are the only articles that are up on the dashboard. But then people often want to go a step further and they want to filter for their brand, filter for a competitive brand, filter for an event. We've made it very easy. You basically type in what you want, and it's going to isolate those articles. Nothing more complicated than that. The little yellow box is where you type in the words, and below are the articles. You can then call up the articles and find the word in context. My favorite one was an automotive client looking for Amazon, not the company. So they had to look at the articles very carefully. We allow you to select the ones you want to analyze. That was my favorite one because the company Amazon came up everywhere. So then what you do is you basically save a folder. So you've chosen a segment, you chose a time frame, you chose a publication, you chose a topic, and now you filtered it. Now you want to create a folder, file rather, and you can export the file and do whatever makes the most sense to you. I can't even name all the things people have done with these text files. It takes a few minutes to create them. The export is in a format that will drop right into Relative Insight software because we partner with them. But everyone I've talked to has been able to work with the files very easily. Anybody who's had questions have reached out to us, or technical people who get involved. But basically, it's a file that's extremely easy to work with, rather. Now I'm going to show you the KnowNow system. As I said earlier, it's text-based. It's not image-based. I know you see an image. But basically what you're going to do is use the KnowNow system to test text. We decided to do a test here by going out to a Frito-Lay site because we thought it was fun and interesting. And what we did was we scraped the text from this website, something that takes minutes. We take that text down, we put it into Notepad or Google, anything that'll strip out the formatting, and I'm not exaggerating, you cut and you paste it in a box. That's what the box looks like. You click on a button, and in this case, you can test it with all 6 of the synthetic respondent segments, and it'll score it virtually instantly. Think 15 seconds. You can then take that same message like we did, because we were interested, and we took the Frito-Lay site, and they had sections like water and climate, all on that page. That page went on and on. But we isolated the text for each of those sections. And we tested it again with all of the segments. And we have a way to produce a graph. And this isn't about an analysis of this data. It's really about the fact that you can quickly get to something that looks like this to analyze each of the segments for the overall message and then for each of the 6 sections. So that's our system. I'm going to put this up on the screen, and if you have any questions, I'll answer them. But that's the URL. It's a free offer. It's a pretty easy form to fill out. You'll see that in a second. If you want to share it with a couple of colleagues, that's fine. Here's my advice. If you decide to do this, have fun with it. Grab a couple of websites, scrape the data, the text data, put it into the system, look at it across the segments. Put some ideas in, even if you want to create them in a large language model just for fun. Create a quick persona, create 10 concepts, put them into KnowNow, see how they score. The more you do that, the more you're really going to understand the world we're now living in. I work with clients that no longer come out of a brainstorming session with anxiety because they have 50 to 100 ideas. They put them all into KnowNow. They score every single one of them. And then with human intellect, they decide what to go forward with. We have clients that are testing many, many, many more variations because, once again, this model is a fixed price. You're not buying tokens. You're buying access to a panel. And literally, I don't care if you do thousands of tests per month. So with that, I'll answer any questions, if there are any questions.
Hi, Patrick. Thank you. So we do have some time for some questions. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in that Q&A box. So to kick things off, how long does it take to build a custom synthetic respondent?
So when we build a custom synthetic respondent, there's 2 different ways we do it. One is we use the panel that you just saw and we customize it. So imagine you begin working with this panel, which represents the generations, and you work with Gen Z, and you say, that's too general. I can think of 5 different types of Gen Z, and I want to have 5 different segments. That takes approximately 2 weeks. We can do it that quickly because we build on the basic foundation and then add things. If you have a segmentation data set and you send it to us, that takes about a month because we're literally starting with a blank screen. We have to analyze your data. We have to run a lot of tests. It takes about 2 weeks to model it and then 2 weeks to QC it. And by QCing it, I mean we're looking at what they're reading, and we've worked with you to have appropriate reading sources. Once we leave this world, where we have a general Alexa 500 reading source, and we go to something custom, we're going to ask you what reading sources do your segments care about. I'll give you the example that usually really makes the point. We work a lot in pharma. So imagine your model in healthcare professionals. Doctors, well, they read things we never read. We put them in the reading list. We're not telling them they have to like it. We're just saying they have to see it. So 2 to 4 weeks is the answer.
Great. And Patrick, would you mind touching on what your pricing model is, if you're comfortable with that? You know, is it based on a monthly basis, number of uses, sizes of agency, client, et cetera?
Great question. So there's 2 parts to the pricing model. The first is to build out the synthetic respondent segment. That's assuming you're not using this panel as is. So there's a price if it's custom, where I'm working with a large segmentation data set. It's more expensive than if I'm just building on this. I usually need to see a data set. I'm not trying to evade the question, But I've seen things that are 1,000 pages, and I've seen people send me 25 pages that's a summary. I will say this. People find it reasonable. So that's the first thing. You have to build it. It's a one-time cost. Once it's built and QC'd, and we've talked about the reading sources, it's a monthly fee to have unlimited use. And with that, you can go in and pull the monitoring data. Like if you're working with Relative Insight and you had Heartbeat set up, you might pull a data file every week for every one of your segments. Fine, you could pull 20 a week. So it's a fixed fee for all the monitoring analysis you want to do within our system. And then it's a flat fee for KnowNow. And what I've learned, and I've been doing this since 2017, so I've had some time, is people have a hard time breaking old habits. They think in terms of 10 concepts instead of 25 or 30 because they have variations on the 10. But with technology, this is totally secure in case that's not obvious. No one's going to see your ideas, which pharma loves. Financial services companies love. Probably everybody loves it. Those people talk to me about it all the time. But in KnowNow, I encourage people to test variations on an idea. What people often learn when they have the patience to do that, or more the discipline, is slight differences can attract a different segment. It's the same product, but it's how you're talking about it. So what people have learned is, I'm going to try this idea. It's not going to cost me another penny. It's going to take me a couple minutes. And I might learn that Gen Z and Gen X are very different for this exact same product, even though it does the same thing, but the way I communicate it, it increases their interest. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think that was perfect. Thank you, Patrick. How many parameters and what kind of parameters are used to classify the texts and award the points?
Oh, tens of thousands. I mean, this is machine learning. You know, you start with something that your brain can maybe handle, and if you can handle it in 48 hours, you're better than me. If you looked at the fingerprint graphs, it's mind-boggling what we can do with technology. This has been around, this technology, for about 10 years. It's very refined, but I don't even know if the data scientist would give you a number. It's tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands. It's just the power of combining everything in a machine learning environment. Most people who understand machine learning understand that machines will often have really dumb ideas because they can combine things that should never be combined. But ultimately, this is storing and fingerprinting everything. So it's a very, very, very large number.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah, wow. This is currently US based, correct? And what about similar markets like Canada?
Yeah, Canada will probably be the next market, then probably the UK. We have global demand. I'm starting to look for partners that can help me bring it to other countries. I have no doubt that this is a global idea. I never meet with a pharma company that doesn't want to do this in 5 to 10 countries. Right now we're doing it in the US, but to make that very clear, Canada, there's enough demand to move that next, and we've done some basic research there. And then we'll probably start with English speaking countries, but I don't have a crystal ball, but I can't imagine a year from now people won't have helped me find resources to bring it to other countries.
Great, thank you. What do you need to build a custom synthetic respondent? Did we already cover that?
Well, really what you need is data that describes the segment. And I'm often challenged in the pharma industry on the B2B side because of their sample sizes. They get a little anxious because often the sample sizes can't be very large. They're specialists in a certain type of doctor or surgeon. This is how I answer the question when I'm talking to a pharma client. If you feel confident that you've built a segment with the amount of data you've collected and you're willing to have work sessions with me and answer my questions, I will model that data. Often, I don't know if often strong enough, about the vast majority of the time, this is what happens. So you did a great segmentation, you spent $250,000, you know a lot about those doctors, you come back and you're telling me all about them as doctors. And I have to find a very polite way to say, you don't know anything about them as people. You don't know anything about them as people. And this model depends on modeling people, not how they prescribed medicine or their behavior as a professional. So we've designed a tool at PersonaPanels that we work with clients with their typing tool. They go out and do about a 10 to 12-minute survey that really captures the interests of them as people. The irony of it is the clients love that data because they never bothered to do that. They didn't have the budget for it. So the first part of that answer is if you think you can describe a segment and your company's bought into it, you can convince me to model it. But I'm just giving you a heads up. You probably don't know a lot about them as people because that's how we tend to think. And I'm as guilty of that as anybody.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Patrick. It seems like that's all the questions that we have for today. Just as a reminder to our attendees, all of the sessions from today's Tech Showcase will be available to watch back on demand. But yeah, with that, thank you so much, Patrick. It was such a pleasure having you here with us today. And thanks to all of our attendees for being here as well.
Thank you, everybody.